well get started. It's about that time. So I'll give a brief little intro. And Dave, can you record today? Just to make sure that we have the whole thing there.
Yes, I just have
So
started. Yes.
so welcome everybody to the International Trombone Hang. Many of you have been here before, and you've heard me babble on about how wonderful it is to just get this opportunity, and it's kind of one of the silver linings that have come from our COVID existence right now. But it's wonderful to make it some more sessions, as we have several more planned, and we're sources if things come up in conversation. Whenever things are mentioned about certain books or websites or people, I try to throw something in the chat just in case you're maybe less familiar with that individual or that source. But with any good internet safe practice habits, if you are in a large group setting and you receive some kind of link that looks unrecognizable from somebody that you do not know, just drop a message in the chat and ask, hey, is this legit? That way you don't end up clicking on, if somebody were to join the room and drop something in there and try to get you to, I don't know, sign up for something or whatever. We've never had a problem at the ITH because we don't post the Zoom information publicly. So I don't think we'll have any problems today, but just always good to remember for general internet practice. Speaking of the Zoom link, most of you are on our email list. If you'd like to be on our email list, it's just literally on my computer. We don't sell it to any kind of advertising or whatever. I just send out an email with the information regarding upcoming ITH sessions. Just let me know. You can find my website or YouTube channel or whatever. If you are kind of connected via social media, we do appreciate if you promote our stuff just so more people can find out about the ITH and take advantage of it. There are a lot of kids out there and a lot of young developing players that might not have access to private lessons or might not have that community locally or geographically. So we try to make sure it's they're aware that this is available for them. So I post on Instagram. Dave's on a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel. There's the webpage on my website. Please feel free to just kind of promote all of that stuff to help get the word out. We really do appreciate that. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to just an artist who I have the utmost respect for and admiration for. And we were actually just talking before we kind of opened the room about how the first time I met Carol was about 20 years ago. I happened to be at a trombone festival in northern England, and she was one of the performers there, and just blew me away with her style and just unabashed beauty on the instrument. And I think it's just been wonderful to see her career just take off in so many different directions. So today we're going to do a little playing at first, and then we're going to get an opportunity to talk with Carol. And I think you're in for a real treat. So thanks for being here, and we want to thank Carol Jarvis for being here as well. Carol, I'm going to turn it over to you. Dave, before I do though, am I missing anything? I forget anything?
Nope. All
Oh,
good.
all right, Carol, please take it away. Welcome and thank you.
Hi, I'm off mute, aren't I? Yeah. Hello, nice to meet you all. There's some familiar faces here from various trombone festivals all over the place. Really nice to see you all. Okay, so I'm gonna basically walk you through my sort of kind of warm up, but it changes all the time. And seeing as it's early there, 7 o'clock in the morning, that's far too keen there, Alex. You're gonna get a very early warm up. But basically sort of walking you through the kind of things that I do, but also how I sort of vary those things as well. And something that is very much, I think, the British tradition, and it may well be elsewhere in the world, but every single lesson is always about breathing, always about air. And I always find that there's a real difference. This is no offense meant to anyone, but I feel there's a real difference between amateur playing and professional playing, and it's mainly due to the air. It's mainly due to the breathing and really, really mastering that breathing. I teach at 2 music conservatoires in the UK, one in London, one in Manchester, all online at the moment, which is doing my eyes in on the computer screen. But it's something that I say in every single lesson about breathing. And I always find that the first year undergraduates can't breathe. They move into second year, they still can't breathe. Third year, they still can't breathe. Fourth year, usually they still can't breathe. And I remember for me, it became a real natural thing around my 4th year undergraduate. For some reason, I don't know why it is, but it just doesn't click for many, many years. But once you've got it, you've got it. And I think it's so important to always work at the breathing. So I have to admit that I took a whole week off playing last week. So I'm going to need this class as much as everyone else. And I always find that the first thing that goes with me is my breathing. That's the first thing that gets out of practice. And I feel that my lungs, I'm breathing with lungs that size. So I need to feel like I need to expand them again. I don't know if anyone out there knows the exact percentage of a general normal person that doesn't play the trombone, how much they use the lung capacity, but it's minuscule. It really is. So the first thing I will be working on today is breathing. It's something that I will do in the shower as I'm just getting ready, so I don't have to sort of waste time when I get to work, when I get to my little studio here, or practicing wherever I am. It's something you can do anywhere, and it will always be to the full extent of your lungs that you can. The hardest you can push them is the better. Yeah, you'll have a few aches and pains all over the place. It will do for me today, but that is doing you good. It's waking you up, and it's getting everything working. So to begin, I'm going to just get a click of, I've got an old school metronome here. No digital stuff for me. It's a proper battery in there. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that enough. Yeah. Okay, good. Leave it next to the computer. So every masterclass I do, everything I do, always start with this breathing, and we're going to breathe in over a count of 10. Hold that for 2 beats, and then out for 10. And so before we do that first breath in, I want you to get rid of your air so that we're starting from scratch. So I'll give you 2 beats to breathe out whatever air you've got, and then in over 10, hold for 2, and out over 10. Okay, ready? Get rid of your air. Okay, so I want you to absolutely get rid of every last little ounce of air every time you do it. So I really want you to be expanding your lungs right from completely empty to completely full, back down to completely empty, because that's the only way we can wake everything up. I'm already finding that I'm like, oh, that is actually waking me up, and it's 3 p.m. So, okay, and again. So get rid of your air over 2 beats, in over 10, hold for 2, out over 10. Ready, and I can't even count on my fingers. Now, don't forget that it's not just breathing here, it's breathing all around here as well. It's when you're breathing out, breathing in, all like that. I always think of it like a big bulbous glass jug, huge glass jug. And that huge cavity there is this bit right round here that you can't see. And I physically find myself, I can push my tummy out without breathing in. You can actually, you've got muscles to be able to just push it out. So if you can do that, I always find that really helps me breathe in that bit first. And I've had, I remember doing I'll stop that for a sec. I remember doing a masterclass out in Peru, of all places, a huge low brass festival, and had, there was probably 5 girls on trombone and 150, 160 men. So these 5 girls were given to me, and I had so much fun with them. And I remember one of them saying, but breathing's ugly. Okay, it might be ugly. Pushing out your tummy might be ugly, but it so helps. It really helps. So try it this time. Just physically, if you can, just physically try and push your tummy muscle out like that. And then when we're about to breathe, do that just as you're about to breathe in. So filling that bulbous bit of the bottom of the jug. Okay, we're gonna do the same again. So get rid of your air over 2, breathe in over 10, hold for 2, and out over 10. Ready? So don't forget that tummy muscle. And breathe out. I didn't count right again. Okay, we're now going to breathe in over 2, hold for 10, and out over 2. So the holding in for 10 beats, we should feel that we're completely full. So don't forget that tummy muscles to push your tummy out, to fill up that huge jug in just 2 beats, hold for 10, and out over 2. Okay, so get rid of your air again over 2. Okay, so you should start now sort of feeling a little bit more awake. We'll do that one more time. So in over 2, as big as you possibly can. So when you're full over the 10 beats, you should feel like you couldn't get any more air in. Okay, ready, and okay, excellent. You almost blow me away here. It's great. Okay, now we're going to do in over 1, hold for 1, out over 1. I'm going to do that twice in a row. In over 1, hold for 1, out over 1. So get rid of your air over 2 beats. Ready, and okay, I want it to literally blow at the screen. Okay, again, get rid of your air. Excellent. I can see some lungs working there. That's great. Fantastic. So that's always the first thing I do. And hopefully you're all feeling a bit like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. It almost gets your adrenaline going a bit as well. I've got a bit of goosebumps here. It just gets you, gets the oxygen running around the body a bit better. The next thing I always do is just mouthpiece. I know some people will buzz on the lips. Believe it or not, I've never actually been able to do that. And I still can't really do it. I'll give you a demonstration. Shocking, really bad. So I think I can still play the trombone without doing that, but I know some people think that you've got to be able to do that to be able to play the trombone and to play the mouthpiece and everything. I don't believe in that, but I do believe that some people do need to buzz on the lips, so that's absolutely fine. I think it's personal preference. For me, it's never worked. I remember my first couple of lessons at the Music Conservatoire where I studied, and I had to go away and try and learn to buzz on my lips for 2 weeks before I picked up the trombone, and I still can't do it. So it's just that for me, that works. Now, something that I do, again, personal preference is totally up to you, but I definitely suggest trying it. I always put my little finger just in there, just slightly in, but just so there's a little bit of a gap. And I find that gives me the resistance that I want. So it's rather than playing the trombone carries on like that, the bore size. Whereas if you play a mouthpiece, I always find that, well, the air goes straight out like that. So it's not more focused. So I always find that if I put my finger there, I have a little bit more control, and just have a go at it now. See if it sort of helps you or not. And you can obviously change how big or small you want that gap. but I always find that mine's roughly like that. And I'll just find the note. So on an F, I'll generally make sure that we're building on the exercise that we've already done, which is a whole breath. So whatever exercise you do, it's got to be a whole breath, because it feels like we've done that work. Let's build on it. Let's make it better. And let's continue to get better from that first exercise. If we now don't breathe and forget how to breathe, then that was just a waste of time. So I always think that whatever exercise you do now, a whole breath. I've forgotten the F. There's the F. Okay. So we're going to gliss up a whole octave. Take a breath and then start there and a gliss back down again. In fact, let's do BPM 60 again. So we'll do 4 beats, the bottom F, going up to the F, and then breathe, and then F, and another one again. So after, follow me, 2, 3. And try and use your whole breath again. Don't forget tummy muscles, fill up completely. And if you need to sort of crescendo to be able to use up your breath, then absolutely do that. We want to be able to get rid of all your air in this exercise so that your breath in the middle is just as good. And again, same again, 2, 3. And I ran out of air then. Now we're going to do that F. Down to that F. 3, 4. So I find it always a lot more control by doing that. Now we're going to start on that one. And we're going to go down another octave. You might find you might not be able to do that, but you can slowly, with this control, you should be able to do that. And the main thing I find here is to not, you might have a little break in your buzzing. You might have a little break somewhere. So just concentrate on making it a really, really constant note. So any break at all, just really try and control it as it goes down. There's your note. 2, 3, 4. There you go. So there's a bit of mouthpiece, and I tend to do sort of slow glissandos like that. And then I will always turn that off, start getting the tongue working. And I'll always start doing that just on the mouthpiece. And I will literally just make up a little tune. Every time I pick up my mouthpiece, I'll do those slow slurs, and then I'll literally so I'll just do a little bit of that. So making up any little tune doesn't really make any tonal sense at all, but it doesn't really matter. It's just getting you a little bit. So just have a go at that. Just, it's literally just playing a few notes, getting the tongue working, and wake it up. I wish I could hear you all now. That would be great. Do I need to open the chat, by the way, Jason, or are you taking care of that? Okay, you take care of that. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we should be breathing better. This should be sort of woken up. So now it's time to bring out the heavy metal. Okay, BPM 80. Always starting slow, always. When people ask me what I do in my warm-up, it's always slow, it's always quiet, but it's always a full breath, absolutely a full breath every single time. So building on what we're doing. So we're just going to start with F down to B flat. 8 beats on F and 8 beats on the B flat. Full breath. And then we'll have 2 beats rest and then down a semitone. Okay. We're ready. 4 beats in. 1, 2, 3. And I always find that you might have to, as you're moving out the slide, slightly play quieter, because otherwise you run out of air. I do anyway. And if in any of these exercises you're finding you're not running out of air towards the end of the exercise, absolutely crescendo, absolutely, because I want absolutely just use your whole lung capacity. It's really, really important to just keep building on that and making your lungs bigger and bigger and bigger.
Carol, I'm sorry to
yes.
interrupt. Is it possible for the next one, could we try it without the metronome? I'm just wondering if Zoom is doing an auto volume adjustment based upon the metronome sound versus the playing sound.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
We'll all just feel the beat and try our best on that.
Okay, yeah. I'll try and keep a pulse as best I can. Yeah, no problem. So I'll always start slow like that, always start quiet. And I always find that you're slowly warming up all of this now, and we're going to start building on range, and we'll get to tonguing and all sorts of things as well. Okay, so this is the first exercise I want to share screen. I'll start. Oh, it's disabled, so I can't. Sorry.
I've just allowed it now.
Okay, thank you. Cheers. Okay. So this is, I think it's Ellefson warm up. Can everyone see that? Okay. So just slowly building on the range. You might find that you're going to have to play it a little bit faster just to be able to get through lung capacity. But just think about dynamics. Just make sure that we're going to use the whole breath every single time. So you see where the breath marks are. So we're probably going to have to do it sort of MF or forte if you're going to do it quite fast, but we're going to try and do it quite slowly this time, but still try and make sure that the whole 2 bars is going to be a whole breath. And then when you take the breath, we're not going to take any beats to do that. So it's just a very quick breath. You might have to take a little bit of time off of the minim just to get a decent breath in. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do about that speed. About sort of that speed. Okay. I'll give you a whole bar in. 1, 2, 3. So that should be now getting the chops really working. I always find that too much long note practice and my chops don't actually want to move out of that position. So I always find real long note practice doesn't really work for me. I know it works for some people, but I always find that I do get a bit stuck otherwise, and I need to now start building on the flexibility. So I will tend to increase dynamics on that one and increase tempo on that one. So varying all of that, so that I think whenever you get a study book out or any kind of exercise, always try and vary it. You can decide before you start whether it's going to be staccato, whether it's going to be legato, whether it's going to be forte, whether it's going to be piano, whether you're going to use a whole breath or whether you're going to concentrate on the slide technique. You can choose how to work on any single study. And as we move on, and I'll show you the kind of thing that I do with that. Okay, we're now going to do this exercise. I'll try and share screen again. So now building on air again, we're going to use no tongue at all on this. So this is something else that I always find that students, hopefully you can all see that. How's that looking for everyone? Yeah, okay. Don't worry, it's not too complicated. It might look a little bit complicated, but it's not. So it's basically a triad exercise, if you look at it. But we're going to use no tongue at all. I always find, actually, I'm going to unshare screen just for a second, just to talk about this. So I always find that there's something that I have to work on with students, is the tongue gets in the way of the air. When we're playing a legato passage, as trombone players, we've got a lot of moving to do. We've got to make it as legato as we can. It's very easy. You can get accidental slight glissandos in when you're moving around. So for instance, if you're just going, if you're just doing that, some people will go slight glissando. da, da, before it clicks up. It can be really, really minute, but if you listen so carefully to players, sometimes you can hear those things in there. So it's all about very, very slick slide technique and the legato tongue. But something I always try and get students to do, because the transitions between the notes, say there's a note there and a note there, and the transition in between, we tend to use the air to disguise that. So our air line, we will duck out of air to make the transition nicer between the two notes. And I would say that's completely cheating. What we really want is really, really constant air and make that transition just cleaner, rather than using the air to sort of make it sound nicer. So I always find that students, absolutely every single student, will do that. And I liken the use of air to, I've said this to so many people now, I'm like a stuck record, but it's like a Japanese game show called Hole in the Wall. I don't know, some people might have come across that, but it's basically a person standing this side, and there's some water, and there's a wall that moves along with a different shape in it, and this person has got to get in the shape of this wall, because the wall will go past them and push them in the water if they're not in the right shape. Now that wall is just going to keep going no matter what, and then another wall comes along with a different shape, and they've got to get in this different shape and avoid being knocked into the water. So that wall is like your air, and it's absolutely not going to stop. It's just absolutely got to be constant and at the same level as well. We don't want any ducking out or anything. With legato playing, we don't want to be trying to disguise those transitions between notes just by using the air. So I will always remove tongue completely and just work on air. And it's a question of, you can do any exercise, whether it's just a scale with your eyes closed, and just feel what is going on here. What is going on with your air? If you get rid of tongue and really concentrate on just keeping that as constant as possible, it will feel a little bit strange because we're not used to doing that. We're very used to just using the air in different ways, ducking in and out of notes and things. So really keeping it absolutely constant with no tongue at all. So this exercise, that's what we're going to do. No tongue at all, and just concentrate on the air. So don't worry right now that we might have a few things like this. On the first section, it might sound a bit. We're going to have a few glissandos, but it's all about keeping the air really, really constant. We're going to have to do it a little bit faster, otherwise we're going to need a breath in the middle. So about that. 1 and 2 and 3, about that tempo. Okay. Big breath at the start. Don't forget, a whole breath. No tongue at all. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ran out of air. And again. And carry on. that, your air should be really, 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 your lungs can be almost aching now because you're using your lungs to the max. And so thinking about those kind of exercises, I'm sort of jumping on just to try and get different exercises in, but I will normally do sort of scales and stuff before that. And then doing that kind of exercise, you think about the constant air, but what does the air do when you go higher? Goes faster. Goes faster. So that kind of exercise there is and always, always, always think of tone as well. Yes, the slide is still a little bit glissy because we're just looking after the air right now, and we've taken the tongue away. But always think of a nice tone, whatever you're practicing, whatever you're playing through. It's always about making the sound as nice as possible. So they're kind of exercises that I will do to make sure the air is working correctly. And you can just take it back to doing something very, very, very simple and just feel, close your eyes and feel what your air is doing when you're playing really, really constant air. And it takes quite a bit of practice to be able to get that air really constant before you introduce the tongue again. So I'm now going to show another one. So this one is about air speed. And again, we'll not use any tongue. So this is a Schlossberg exercise. I do like the Schlossberg books. So as you can see, it's just starting on an F and we're just building up in the F arpeggio. And it's all about airspeed and think about tone. So I'll just sort of demonstration. We're just going to do no tongue again. So no tongue at all. It's all glissandos, but you'll see the little crescendos underneath them. That will always help with the air speed. If you're always worried about air speed not supporting, a little bit crescendo will really help you there. And yeah, actually, just before I'll just make myself stop screen just for a second. So thinking about airspeed and what we're doing with the sort of science of the instrument. If you think about the organ symphony solo, the trombone solo and the organ symphony, which you share with third horn and clarinet, it's such a beautiful, beautiful melody, but it's quiet. And if you play that in an audition or like students playing it in front of examiners and things, you're alone, you're not got the orchestra behind you, so you've got to show that you can play quiet, and that will just make it harder. And I know in auditions you might have played it completely perfectly, but the panel might say, okay, can we hear it again but quieter? It's not because you might have done it wrong, they just want to see if you can play it quieter. And so doing that kind of solo, if you don't know it, it's the it's that beautiful, beautiful solo. But playing it quiet is obviously it's the lower part of the instrument and it's scary. You could easily lose a note, just go because it comes out. And if you think about the science of the instrument, so the first note, the A flat, and third position, moving to the B flat, if you put your cheek next to your mouthpiece and just do a quick move from third to first, you'll feel air coming out because that's the science of the instrument. There's air in there, you push it, you're fighting against that air. So when we move from the A flat to the B flat, we've got to compensate for that air that we're actually almost pushing out of the instrument in a way. So we've kind of got to fight against it. So in my part of organ symphony, when I was a student, there's a little crescendo under every single note just to make sure that the support is there. Not to the point where it sounds blah, 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 but just really, really subtle. That helps me. It's more of a mental thing to help support me, knowing that I can get that next note. Not to worry about it, but I can get that next note. Just think about slight crescendo just to support it. And then from that second note, the B flat, out to the D flat in fifth, the instrument's getting bigger, so you've got to fill the instrument more. So again, you've kind of got to crescendo a little bit there as well, just to be able to support it. So I always think of that kind of thing when we're changing the shape of the instrument, we're moving the slide, we're crossing harmonics. There's all sorts of things to think about. So let's share this study again. So we're going to do this one with no tongue, and just think about that sort of airspeed and the crescendo that helps you get across those harmonics, so that there's absolutely constant air, and so there's no gaps whatsoever, no gaps. Okay, and we are going to be getting up to a top C, you'll see on the bottom line. So just keep those corners down, keep it nice and secure, but no pressing on the chops. It's just keeping it nice and secure. Okay, so about that speed. And we'll hold those pauses together. Okay, 3, 4. So I feel like that's just sort of gentle wake up to the sort of higher register. I probably need to scoot over a few things just to try and fit it all in. I've prepared too much. But always thinking about airspeed and tone. And when we talk about high register, which is somewhere I am most comfortable personally in, playing on this little one, obviously. I don't know if anyone's seen sort of a few YouTube clips of me playing ballads, but they're all high, they're all up there. And I don't know why I decided to put that together as a little live performance, because if you do 45 minutes or an hour of that, it's a bit of a killer. I wasn't really thinking ahead to that kind of thing. But what I did find when I'm sort of playing up in that high register, that I'm not pushing on here at all. Pressure on there, that's going to die, and your stamina is not going to last. Keeping these secure, and actually I found that I anchor my mouthpiece on there a lot more than I would on there. It might sound very, very strange, but when I've sort of played those ballads, that there's not much pressure on there at all, but the pressure on there is quite just really, really anchored. So next time you're sort of playing high and thinking about stamina of staying up there, try and think about that and keeping this so secure. Those muscles there, really, really tight and secure. And again, it's all about airspeed. And I think about the shape of the mouth and what the tongue does in the mouth as well. So if that's your tongue, obviously your air is coming through here, your embouchure. We're going to be tonguing notes about sort of there. But your tongue can sometimes get in the way of the air as well. So this, if the tongue is slow, you'll get a bit of a pear-shaped da, 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 because it pushes the air out again when you're coming in. So the tongue has got to always be really, really fast coming back in. But when you're playing high, I always find that my tongue is really, really high in the mouth as well. So think about airspeed and the tongue position when you're playing high. That's what I've always found that increases my stamina for playing up there longer. Okay, I'll try and move on to, okay, I'm going to show the kind of thing when I was talking about varying whatever you're reading on in a study book. So I'll just share this screen. Okay, there we go. Hopefully, is that making it bigger? There we go. It's a bit bigger. Oops, there we go. So if you see this kind of thing, this is just Arban study. If you see that kind of thing, very, very simple. You can use that in so many different ways. You can use it for your constant air practice. You can use it for your legato practice. You could use it for staccato practice. You can use it for tonguing practice. And the way I would do it, actually, let's all play it together. Let's all play through this just so that we know how it goes. And about 80, I think. So that's the tempo. We'll do about MF, MP. Try and use full breaths. Breathe wherever you need to, but try and use a full breath before you take a breath. Try not to just be lazy and do a couple of bars each time. And now we're going to try and concentrate on really slick slide. So we're going to introduce the tongue again, but the air has still got to be constant, but using that slide really, really slick. We don't want to be able to hear any of these. Don't hear any of those slight glissandos. That's a really lazy slide. So really slick, fast slide and keep that air really, really constant. Okay, all together. After 4. 1, 2, 3. So just that's just sort of getting to know it and thinking about constant air, really slick slide. And then I will always change these things up. I will now do that up an octave, the whole thing. And then I'll do the whole thing down an octave. And yeah, there's bottom Ds, but bottom Bs, but you can just fake those. But I will always try and do exactly the same kind of exercise. Thinking about slick slide, thinking about tone always and constant air, up an octave and down an octave. And then I will also introduce rhythms. So for instance, I'll just make it up. Literally like that. So just trying to vary anything that you read. There's so many study books out there, and some of them are really just look so basic like that, but there's no reason why you can't use that in any way you want. Just one study book is all you need these days. I've got a whole Dropbox full of 1 million study books, and I still go back to the same sort of exercises, really simple things that you can change to however well you want to work on that day. You can work on tonguing one day, rhythms another day, slick slide another day. It's just endless. So let's try that now. Dum digga dum. Actually, we'll do dum digga dum dum digga dum dum digga dum 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 digga dum dum digga dum dum digga dum 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 digga dum dum digga dum dum digga dum dum dum, digga dum, dum, digga dum, dum, digga dum, dum. So it's with that little triple tonguing bit in the middle. Okay, same tempo. 2, 3, go. So varying anything you read, it really doesn't matter how you vary it. Like I said, up an octave, down an octave. And whenever I've done sort of masterclasses and things, I get someone to volunteer a rhythm on the same thing. And we'll go around the circle and choose different rhythms just to work on different style parts of our playing. Okay, so that's another option of things that I do. It varies so much every single time I pick up the trombone. Thinking about tonguing and staccato, this is something that I will tend to do. It kind of involves slick slide as well. I remember when our trombone quartet, Bones Apart, which I founded many moons ago, and we, thanks Rob, and we, at one of our first, I think it was one of our first trips abroad, it was to an ITF. And I remember we played the Stars and Stripes Forever, and I had that big piccolo solo in the middle, and the crowd full of American people. I love you, American people. I love you all. Went absolutely wild, and it was absolutely brilliant. We loved it, and we went for lunch afterwards, and everyone was just sort of stood around looking at us, like just eating lunch. What are they doing? Why are they just looking at us? And they just wanted to come and talk to us and say, how do you play so precise, so precise? And I feel that the British slide technique, that's what we're taught, is such a slick slide. And I found that slide technique in different countries can be very different. Some are very fluid, but the British slide technique is very quick, extremely quick. And I think that's something that I will always continue to work on. Here's a little exercise, getting tongue working and slide working. So just based upon arpeggios. Again, it's a Schlossberg. So I love digging out these Schlossberg things. And again, you can take this down the octave. If you're a bass trombonist, I struggle doing it down the octave, but I'll always try it. And up an octave, why not? Try and increase your range as well. So this will be just tonguing, producing each note as cleanly as you can. Try not to get any kind of dr on the note. It's just got to be really precise, nice clean tongue, and that slide is going to move dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum. We're not going to do it quite that fast. Dum da da dum 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 dum da da dum. So it's just getting that slide nice and quick on the semiquavers. Okay. I'll give you a 4 bars in. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. any exercise a little bit like that just gets the slide working, I always find very, very beneficial, because we're not just warming up the lungs, warming up the chops, warming up these muscles in your arms, warming up everything. There's so much to playing the trombone, very, very physical. And always in my warm-up, I will always get a few loud pedal notes. Normally a tone, so have a go at that. Just literally just down a tone each time. I find that's pretty much what I sort of do in my warm-ups. I think when it comes to sort of practicing things, if I've got something tricky, like I don't know, if you're tackling something like the Larsen concertino for the first time, you might recognize the last movement, but it's really getting the slide. There's lots of like trying to get the slide of all sorts of really intricate little bits, but it's all around first, second, third. It's all here. So if I'm practicing something like that, I was trying to memorize it, then trying to remember how it went. If I'm trying to do things like that, you don't have to worry about using this up in your practice. You can extend your practice times by not using that, not playing notes, but just going. And you can still get the air, can still get the tonguing, but you're using the slide, you're still practicing, but you don't have to be wearing your lip out every single time. So they're little things I might do in my sort of fast practice, getting the slide really, really slick. Learning, getting the muscle memory is something, I mean, that was all muscle memory for me, because I learned that when I was a student, trying to remember it again. But the muscle memory will be there, but you can work on your muscle memory even without using the chops and playing notes and doing in your stamina in your long practice. But also, I always try and keep things interesting. Warming up can be just exercises. It can just be just a bit of a again, got to warm up before I can get into something. We do need to warm up, otherwise we're not going to be our best player, the best we can be. So I always vary it. So that warm up I've just sort of shown you there is just various ideas that I will be doing around, but every single warm up is slightly different. I'll always start with breathing, always mouthpiece, and so, and then it's just building up there. Making it interesting. Any study book you've got, just trying to think about how you can vary it the next time you pick it up. The next time you look at it, you can do it absolutely no tongue whatsoever. Just trying to be imaginative with all of it. And something I'll always do in masterclasses as well is a bit of ear training. And just like, for instance, happy birthday. I'll say to someone, right, play happy birthday in the key of D. 9 times out of 10, they'll start on the note D. No, it's not, doesn't start on the note D in the key of D. But just trying to think of how that goes, what the intervals are as you go, and trying to play through something. Something like The Great Escape. I can just think, right, okay, now we're going to do that in the key of D. And you can literally, if you know something, I remember going to a masterclass of Marshall Gilks, and he played Mozart Requiem, tuba mirum solo, and then someone said, play it in this key. He just played it in that key. Play it in this key, play it in that key. And if you know something really well like that, just transpose it on the spot and just try and play it, because it's so good for this. It's so good for your ear training, thinking of what that next interval is as you're going. And I remember being on the spot doing an orchestra audition, and I got offered the job actually, but some of the excerpts that weren't on list was Organ Symphony and Bolero. They weren't on the list to learn, but I knew them, and they said, "Do you know Organ Symphony?" "Yeah." "Play it." "Okay." And I remember, right, it's a A flat, B flat, and as I went, I was literally right. Then it's a minor third, then it's back to the B flat, then it's a tone, and then it's up a minor third, and it was literally as I went, I was remembering the intervals. So if you know something, always think about the intervals and try and transpose things just to keep things fun. I'm waffling a bit now, but they're sort of the basics that I kind of do, and always vary it, because otherwise it gets a bit boring. Okay, any questions? I'm just talking on and on and on. There's lots of things in the chat. Should I be going through? Oh, Rob, go for it. Rob.
Sorry, I had to find the unmute button. I just want to say, as a trombonist, I have followed your career with great admiration, but I'm also a physician, and so I have followed your course also with great concern. And so my question is just, how are you doing?
Oh, bless you. I'm really well, really well. For anyone who doesn't know, I went through a very long battle with cancer. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it's something that is very common between the ages of 20 and 30 and 50 and 60. Apparently, they're the most common ages. And I was in my 20s, diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2. It was in my neck, and it was in between my lungs, and it was 15 centimeters round in there, in between my lungs. And I remember my prognosis right at the start was extremely good, because the first line chemotherapy successful. For me, it wasn't. I was a bit of a random case where I didn't respond to any standard treatments whatsoever. So I went through 9.5 years of chemotherapies, radiotherapies, transplants, you name it. I tried it all, and it was after five solid years of different treatments and losing my hair 3 times through treatments, that they then told me that I wasn't going to make it, and to get my head around the fact that they'd run out of everything. They'd run out of every option, and they even sent me to psychologists to help me try and get my head around the fact that I was going to die. But I wasn't having any of it. I still felt fine. I was still touring in between all these treatments. I was still working, because I make a living out of my hobby, and I love it so much. And that was my escape as well from having too much burden on my shoulders. But they decided, right, we're just going to basically test on you instead. So it was clinical trial drugs, experimental drugs, and I had nothing to lose. I thought, well, if they can learn something from me, then fine, I'll be a laboratory rat for them. And surprisingly, I think it was the 4th clinical trial drug got me to remission, and all the specialists were very, very shocked by that. This was, I think, 7 years into all the journey, and so I got to remission, and there were. I remember getting the phone call first thing in the morning. I was touring. I landed back in Paris after a scan, going off on tour again, and I got a phone call first thing in the morning, like 8 a.m. in the morning, 7 a.m. in the UK, saying, "Carol, you're in remission, your first metabolic remission for 7 years." I was like, okay, but I knew that I couldn't celebrate there and then, because a clinical trial drug, you never know how long the remission is going to last. So I knew that a bone marrow transplant was probably on the cards, and I'd already had a stem cell transplant from my own stem cells a few years before, so I knew the kind of thing I had in store, and I knew it wasn't going to be nice. I knew it was actually going to be worse with a unrelated donor. They found 2 matches out of 11 million people for my bone marrow donor. One was pregnant. She was unfortunately in that month gap where they could do the transplant and do the actual procedure. She was pregnant, so they couldn't ask her. But thankfully, this German man said yes, and he was a complete match. It was his birthday last week, actually. So he kindly said yes. He had to go into hospital the same day that I went in for solid chemotherapy for about 9 days. Horrendous stuff. And then on the 9th day, I think it was, his cells came as hand luggage over from Germany, straight to my bedside, and got those cells. It then took me another 2.5 years before I could produce my own red blood cells. So I had to go for blood transfusions every 2 weeks in 2.5 years, which sent my iron levels sky high. Right now, I've just started removing all that iron, so going to hospital every couple of weeks to just get rid of a pint of blood. So eventually, my blood levels will be all right again. But I have that bone marrow transplant all went well. My DNA swapped over to his DNA, and my blood type changed over to his blood type. Yeah, I'm absolutely doing really well. My energy levels are great. My lungs are working well. Something that was quite surprising with the lungs was having the tumor in between my lungs, that size. I remember saying to the specialist, how come I didn't know about it? And they said, no one would know. A sports person, a trombone player, doesn't matter how much you use your lungs, you wouldn't know it was there. There's so much room in there. And I remember when I went for radiotherapy, I've got a little tattoo just there where they lined up all the lasers and things, where I had to lie and had this radiotherapy. And it was sort of a rectangular area there and on my back to get me from both sides. And the specialist said, we're going to end up clipping both of your lungs. So you're going to lose 20% lung capacity, and that will be permanent. And I went, whoa. I'm a trombone player, don't you know? And he said, Carol, this is your life. Okay, yeah, forget the trombone. Let's forget that. So I did all this intense radiotherapy. It didn't make any difference to the tumor, but I did lose 20% lung capacity. And that was 2005, I think it was. And then fast forward to 2011, just before my bone marrow transplant with my donor, they had to send me through a lung function test to make sure that I was going to be strong enough for this bone marrow transplant. They've got to test everything because it's extremely grueling. So I went for this lung function test, and the results came back saying my lungs were working at 102%. And all of my specialists, absolutely all of my specialists, who are top European clinicians and oncologists, put that down to me being a trombone player, keeping me alive and getting me ready and strong enough for the final hurdle, which was that bone marrow transplant. So our lungs as trombone players are so vital, and they keep us alive. So there you go. But thank you, Rob. I am doing extremely well.
Well, we're all so glad, and thank you for sharing your story once again. I've been following along and hoping to continue to hear the good news like you just gave us. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, I'm loving life, every single inch of it. And I don't take anything for granted anymore, I don't think either. Any other questions? It can be about anything. Yes, Erin.
Hi.
Hello.
I guess just a general question. What would be like maybe your main piece of advice for working on getting a better tone quality in like the really low register and in the pedal register?
Oh, wow. Something I'm still working on. I think I will always record yourself. I think what we hear from behind the bell isn't what everyone else is going to hear from in front of the bell. So recording yourself and listening back and being ultra critical of your playing. And always think of the way the shape of the bell goes like that. Your sound should be going like that and just continuing on. We don't want the bell to go like that and then your sound just goes like that. It's just got to be a huge sound. When we're playing low, it's obviously the sort of slower airspeed, but just thinking of that sound going like that, just out, not necessarily loud, but just out, and just being a big, big, warm, round sound. And what's so difficult in these times is we're just stuck in our homes, in our practice rooms, in our studios, and we're just used to these walls. We're just used to playing in these walls. I actually had to go searching for my trombone case when I had a gig in December, and I was like, I have no idea where my trombone case is. Because we're getting so used to just playing in these little four walls. And I think that's such a danger for when we get back to playing out in concert halls and wherever we play, whether it's in just a little band rehearsal. That band room is a lot bigger than our little rooms at home. And so I feel that our sounds can easily be just getting smaller and smaller. So I'm trying to be conscious of, especially in the lower register, to keep thinking, I'm in a concert hall, play like I'm in a concert hall, play like it's the interval, it's like the break of an orchestral rehearsal. Everyone's gone to get a cup of tea. I'll stay behind just to play a few notes, just to enjoy the acoustic, but put myself in that place and play as though I'm in that place, forgetting what it actually sounds like in this little room. So I think those are my main things about it's just trying to recording yourself, listening back, being really ultra critical, and just thinking that you're in a big space and projecting that sound out. The main. And slow airspeed, keeping this nice and open as well. All of that, as though you're yawning. Keep that nice and open so that the actual resonance of the low register really helps. There's a few ideas anyway. Anything else? Anyone? Yes, Kirsten. Oh, I've got a few hands, sorry.
Hey.
Go on, Kirsten. Hi.
So this is on my mind because I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to rub some knots out of my hands, and you as a person with smaller hands, probably, I'm wondering if you have any advice for managing the years long stress of holding up this instrument and being in that static position. Have you ever gone through problems with hand and joint pains related to this? And if you do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, really good question. That I don't think I've ever been asked that before. So that's a really great question. Yeah, I absolutely do. When I said the first thing that gets out of practice for me is my lungs and my lung power. The second thing is the weight. Absolutely. Before any of this, that kind of comes back pretty quickly. But it's the weight of the trombone. I'm already feeling that, having had a week off of just last week of just meetings and things online. So just the sheer weight of that, I don't even know how much a trombone generally weighs, but I do find that the weight is something that affects my hand, because that's kind of your grip there is not a very, I don't know, how many other things this weight would you hold like that? I don't know. Normally you'd hold it like that and support it. So we're sort of holding it in a very strange way. Your fingers are tight in here, and I've actually found that sometimes I do get cramp in my hand because of the weight. And I have adjusted my grip, so moving this finger up here to take some of the strain onto that finger. You can see I'm moving a bit closer. So rather than just holding like this, I have moved that finger up to sort of take some of the weight there before. But I know that that's probably not a good thing to do, because then the gap between these two fingers, you see the tendons there are stretched, so you can add all sorts of cramp to your hand. And I'm someone that does suffer from cramp. It's something apparently from one of the trial drugs I had. Everything from elbows to hands and knees to feet, I can easily get into sort of cramp. So what I do it's a bit of dumbbells, to be honest. I have actually got and I need to up the weight a bit because I'm feeling a bit weak right now, having not played at all last week. So normally 5 kilograms in each arm, and it will be those Also those behind working on every single part. And I feel that as women as well, we're not as strong as the guys. So I do feel like that is something that I do need to do when I get sort of back into practice, because it's a heavy old instrument. And I think in terms of shoulders, I've always got sort of tight in between the sort of shoulder blade and the spine. It's always that bit there, always knotted, always. And it's not always from just holding the trombone up playing. It's normally carrying all the gear. The amount of times commuting into London, I mean, I've got 2 trains to catch, I've got the tube to catch, just to go teaching. Thankfully, I've now left a trombone there, and I've left a trombone in Manchester. So I don't have to be carting the trombone as well as everything else. But I do find that shoulders, massages are just the way forward for that. But yeah, weights for me, just to try and get the strength back up again. I don't know if that helps very much.
Yeah, it does. I found even just for I was having problems with tennis elbow, and push-ups could help with that. So I'll add in some of those other weight exercises.
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
More well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even do 1 press up, so you're better than me. Was it Dominic had a question? Yeah, go for it.
Hi. You're one of the rare breeds out there that actually doesn't stick out like a sore thumb when you change genres. Even the best players, I think, we try and fake it when we change genres. Is that for you, is that a hardware thing? Is that just use your ears and switch onto the sound, or do you change something technically? How do you switch between genres in that way, sound-wise?
First of all, thank you. That's a real compliment saying that. I still feel like I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. But I feel like I'm always trying to bluff it the best I can. And I don't know if the main, I'd say the main people out there that I look up to, whether they still feel like they're bluffing it the best they can. But I definitely put it down to the fact that when I first took up the trombone, there were no trombonists in the local area. So I was the trombone player in the brass bands, the orchestras, the big bands, everything right from the start. I was taught by a cornet tutor. So it was all brass band treble clef. And I was put in a big band and I was put in an orchestra, and I saw these strange clefs. I had no idea what they were, but I had to teach myself tenor clef, bass clef, alto clef on the spot, because no teachers could sort of keep up with where I was sort of having to excel. I had to fill in these parts in these ensembles. So I've played in every style right from the start. So I think swapping styles I've always found quite easy. But I also think that if it's something that you want to be able to do, it's absolutely listening, going to as many concerts as possible and hearing it live, getting inspired by that live music when eventually there is some live music out there. But listening to every style, even the music that I don't really like, I will absolutely listen to it. Putting on different radio stations. I like this. I'm a big fan of sort of Spotify for listening. Not a fan of Spotify in terms of the money they pay to artists, but the kind of breadth of music out there. You can just stick on a radio station and just listen to anything that comes up, and just really jumping into that style, trying to emulate those styles the best you can, recording yourself trying to do those styles. I can't think of much more than that, but it's just properly immersing yourself in everything. I know exactly what you mean in terms of I don't know, some orchestral musicians trying to do a bit of jazz and it's yes, it can be really cringeworthy. And brass bands as well. Hear an entire brass band swinging. it's not swing, as we know. So and I just can't stress enough that all of those musicians need to just listen to the greats, listen to those great recordings and properly try and emulate what they do, because it's the only way to properly learn how to swing, to properly learn. If you're a jazzer trying to swap over to playing with a big orchestral sound, again, the tone can be very much like that. So getting that really big tone, there's so many different styles to try and get across, being such a versatile instrument. There's yeah, we're very lucky, and I think I can't actually choose which one I do for a living. If someone said, right, do you want to just be a pop musician, I don't think I could say no to those Mahler symphonies. If someone said, right, here's an orchestral job, which I did get offered an orchestral job years ago, I can't say no to the pop and jazz gigs. I just can't. I just love it all, and I think I'll forever be trying to bluff it as best I can. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. I just remember about 2 years ago, our conductor asking the orchestra to swing. We get to the dress rehearsal and he says, more swing, and the second oboe player puts his hand up and just says, oh, do you want us to play triplets? And this was 5 rehearsals into something. And orchestral swing, there is German orchestral swing. There is nothing worse on the planet.
Oh, I love it. That's so funny. But I know over here, if there's sort of a sort of big band, I don't know, type style that an orchestra is going to be doing for a whole concert, then they'll usually bring in a rhythm section, a lead trumpet, a lead trombone, and yeah, not normally saxophones, because normally the clarinetists double on the saxophone, but then at least the brass section kind of mold into the lead trumpet and the lead trombone and the rhythm section. And it's funny, some orchestras think I'm an orchestral musician, and I don't do the pop jazz stuff. And then there's other orchestras that book me as that lead trombone player, because they know me as a jazzer and they don't know me as an orchestral player. It's funny how you get pigeonholed by certain ensembles and things. But yeah, I think it's a shame for the woodwind and the strings, because they're further away from the brass section in terms of really sticking to that lead trumpet and lead trombone and the rhythm section. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean about the slightly cringeworthy swing. Rinky tinky, that's what we call it. Any other questions? No.
I actually have, this has been super helpful. Thank you so much. I really loving this. I have to run. I got to teach now, but what I can do is I can make Teo the host and you can keep talking. If there are any other questions, just go for it. I think we're really happy to have such an amazing player here with us. I really, yeah, so yeah, but any other questions, shout them out. Thank you.
Oh, bless you. I think something I'd definitely like to say is just versatility is such an important part of what we do. It's such a versatile instrument, and there's so many styles that this instrument plays in. There's no reason why we can't, as players, play in all of those styles. So trying to be as versatile as possible. I've always done that, and it's always stood me in good stead. I always find that some students have come to me on a classical course and said, right, I'm going to swap over to the jazz course. So, okay, but you're on a classical course here, and you can play in the big band, and you can get jazz lessons. Why would you close one avenue and just you're closing one door there just to go down that smaller corridor? Whereas I would say, keep all of those doors open, keep all of those avenues open. If you can try and do it all, do it all. I've always found that has led on to a bigger breadth of work. There's offers come in from all genres then, rather than just going down the jazz route and just getting offered jazz gigs. That's it. So I've always found that sort of helped me, and also getting into the recording software, that's opened up other avenues for me as well. I've been recording trombone on sort of TV adverts, movie soundtracks from home for 20 years or so, just because I've got used to the recording software, how to edit, how to mix, how to produce, and it's all taught myself through YouTube videos, and you can learn anything from YouTube these days. I know someone that learned the trombone just by YouTube, and then went on to music college and then got a job, orchestral job. So you can learn anything from YouTube, and I literally have done that to sort of learn all of the software, gradually build up all the gear. So that's another avenue of income for me. A couple of years ago, I decided to take on voiceover work because I've got all the gear at home. Really enjoy it, and I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if one day I could like be the voiceover artist on a nature documentary? And guess what? Last week I got a phone call. I've got a nature documentary series as a voiceover artist. So I've already hit the dream of what I want to do as a voiceover artist. And so I really enjoy doing that because it's all from here. There's my little voiceover set up there. I have clients dialing in that direct me how to speak. And I think being a musician, the way you know the little nuances of, I don't know, crescendo here and slightly faster there, different tone there. I think it's really handy to have a musician's ear in terms of voiceover work. So I really enjoy doing that as well. I've got my online teaching. I've got recording stuff. I've got so much going on that I think being versatile, having lots of different fingers in different pies is always a good idea. And as soon as this pandemic hit, even more so. And I'm so glad that I have always done that. So my income hasn't really been affected. Yes, every gig and every tour literally disintegrated. And I've only been out and worked 4 days since last February, actually playing the trombone on a TV show for New Year's Eve. But apart from that, my trombone's just been in here, and I don't know where my trombone case is again. I don't know where it's gone. But yeah, just being as versatile as possible is something that I can't recommend more. I've even done backing vocals and played keyboards, and in fact, I'll play you a little clip. This will make you laugh. So let me try and find it. Here it is. So this was straight after my first transplant. I just got home out of hospital. So pleased to be home. Completely bald. Couldn't quite walk very far yet. I couldn't even walk to the end of the road, but I was home, and I was so pleased to be home. I was trying to learn how to sort of eat and keep food down again. So it was a real struggle, but I got offered this recording session. And bear in mind, I couldn't even play the trombone yet, but thankfully this recording session was singing. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. And I was just asked to do a singing recording because I had a recording gear. I said, yeah, I can do that. I can just sit in a chair and sing. And I was so thankful because I earned money for it. And this is the result of it. Let me play this to you. Here we go. Oh no, hang on. I've got to share. Hang on. I've got to share computer sound. There we go. Right. Here we go. Have a listen.
Flash gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Flash will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Can he clean a kitchen sink?
Quicker than a wink.
Can he clean a window sash?
Faster than a flash.
Can he clean a dirty mirror?
He'll make it bright and clearer.
Can he clean a diamond ring?
Flash cleans anything. Flash gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute. It's Flash, it's Flash, it's Flash.
There you go. So that was something that I did. I was still very ill. Thank you. Still very ill and very weak, but you couldn't tell. And that's purely by just having some recording gear, and didn't really have the energy to do anything else. But I could sit in a chair and sing. So I was earning money right from the moment when I got home, which was amazing, being a freelance musician. So I've always said yes to everything. and sort of work it out as you go, really. Sometimes I've almost come unstuck by saying yes to everything. I do remember last story, I promise. I was away from home working in a hotel doing a gig in a trombone funk group in a hotel. We were being put up by the hotel, and I had my portable recording gear with me, and I remember getting a text message saying, Carol, we need to record one note on a movie soundtrack. We need to get this off today. Can you record it by like 6 o'clock? So yeah, no problem. I've got my gear with me. Fine. Just send me through the files, whatever you need, I'll record. Okay, great. So they sent them through the files, and there was no time to call anyone else at all. I was there with this trombone on this funk gig. What was the one note they wanted me to record? A bottom D. It's like, oh no, oh my God. But I said yes. And I was like, there's no way I can just do I can't do one of those. I can't do one of those. I can't send that off. So I just recorded a load of bottom E's instead. Just tweaked it down a little bit, sent it off. They had no idea. So always say yes to everything, but then work out how you're going to do it after you've said yes. So I've always sort of managed to do things that way. Still bluffing it. Dominic, still bluffing it. Any last questions?
I'll just pipe in that, yes, learning audio technology, you learn how to cheat so well.
So true.
So many things are possible.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, you learn so many other techniques. Learning to play to click track is a real technique. I've only just got my brother into recording, getting himself a recording set up. And he said, can I drag all the parts to be in time? I said, just play it in time. Oh, yeah, okay. It's much quicker. But playing to click is a real talent that you find in sort of studios and things. Playing to click track is something that actually very few drummers can play to click track, believe it or not, and play really solidly in time. But yeah, recording gear and just being able to play it back and criticize your own playing is a real good idea to help improve as well. Last questions, and I'll stop waffling. Anything.
Just thank you again so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, not at all. I know Jason's tried to get me for quite a while now, so I could finally do it, even though I was out of practice. I do apologize.
Thank you very
Lovely to
much,
meet you
Carol.
all.
Sorry, I was late at the beginning. Had to do with my kids. It was very nice. I had 1,000 questions, but I'm not sure if you already talked about it because I came late. So I will just check the recording. So probably all the answers will pop up. So thank you very much for
No
today.
worries.
It was great, and all the best.
That was my pleasure.
I think also my internet connection is not really the best one.
I don't know whether I should be checking through the chat for questions. If anyone's got something in there that I
No, I checked everything.
find. Okay.
I think everything is just if this cleaning, the advertising you did, if you could clean the slide. This was a question from Dominic.
What can clean the slide?
No, it was a joke from Dominic.
Okay.
You know,
Sorry.
the
Sorry.
recording of, no, what was the name of this product?
Flash.
You made the
Flash, yeah.
Flash.
Very good. Clean a diamond ring.
if it's a good product for, if it's a good product for the slide for cleaning it. So.
Is that a bit like, is that a bit like injecting yourself with what was it, bleach or something?
Yeah, perfect.
Someone famous said that once. I don't know who it was, but it's a famous clip we've seen a lot on our news over here. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so if no more questions, thank you very much.
No worries. Lovely to meet you all.
And bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye.